Hello, I'm David Hiskey and you are watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel. In the video today, we're looking at whether the United States President has to report food, transportation, and other such gifts from taxpayers on his or her taxes. The short answer is no, and although it's difficult to find an official explanation, after doing a deep dive into US tax law, the answer appears to lie in the United States' ridiculously complicated tax code. To begin with, we'll look at the matter of gifts. While you might think otherwise, the transportation, security, housing, and other benefits received by the president and his or her family are not considered gifts. But even assuming they were, the president would still not have to pay any tax imposed. Why not? Under US income tax law, gifts are, with some exceptions, specifically excluded from taxable income. Gross income does not include the value of property acquired by gift, bequest, device, or inheritance. Rather, taxes owed for any gift are governed by US estate and gift tax law, which imposes the burden of paying any taxes due on the person who made the gift. The taxes imposed by Section 2501 shall be paid by the donor. This gift tax will kick in once the yearly value of any gift exceeds the annual exclusion rate per person, currently $14,000, or once the total amount of the gifts given over a lifetime exceeds the lifetime exemption for both gifts and transfers on death, $5.4 million. So if the perks of Air Force One and the White House were considered gifts, the US citizens would owe the IRS some money on these gifts to the president, which is of course absurd. But luckily, these extras are not simply the largesse of the people, but rather are necessary for the president to do his or her job. As such, according to federal tax law and regulations, the gratis transportation, food, and housing received by the commander-in-chief are non-taxable fringe benefits. Note, at one time the president actually did have to pay for all this stuff himself, including any White House expenses, which is partially how Thomas Jefferson became so hugely in debt. This was also a financial burden on rare non-independently wealthy presidents before the law was changed, such as James Garfield, who had previously been a janitor, carpenter, and school teacher, among other things. When he was president, he didn't even have enough money to own a coach and had to borrow one to get around. Now we move on to non-taxable fringe benefits. Defined by the IRS as a form of pay for the performance of services, fringe benefits are often taxable as income to the employee who receives them. However, there are certain perks that are specifically excluded from the imposition of income tax for regular Joes and the presidents alike. First, let's look at meals and lodging. Although we were unable to find support for this proposition, it appears that this exclusion, 26 U.S.C. 119, would apply to keep the White House, its staff, including a private chef, and certain meals out of the first family's taxable income. It provides in pertinent part, there should be excluded from the gross income of an employee the value of any meals or lodging furnished to him, his spouse, or any of his dependents by or on behalf of his employer for the convenience of the employer. But only if, number one, meals are furnished on the business premises of the employer, and number two, the employee is required to accept such lodgings on the business premises as a condition of his employment. In the case of the president, this also applies to vacation homes and travel. As historian Richard Norton Smith said, if the president goes on vacation, it's part of the job because the president never goes on vacation. I don't think you can legitimately argue against the communications and everything else that travels with and surrounds the president. That said, the president and his or her family are responsible for paying for certain items, including all their own groceries, drinks, dry cleaning, and even their toothpaste. Although, as one commenter wryly put it, the private chef then prepares the dinner using those groceries. Now to transportation and security. When it comes to excluding Air Force One, the presidential limousine, and all other security for the president and family, Treasury Regulation 1.132-5 in pertinent part notes that the government employee may exclude the value of the personal use of their employer-provided vehicle that the security study determines to be reasonable and necessary for local transportation. Similarly, if an employee travels on a personal trip in an employer-provided aircraft, the employee may exclude the value of that flight. It further notes that income does not include the value of a working condition fringe, which is any property or service provided to an employee, to the extent that if the employee paid for the property or service, the amount paid would be allowable as a deduction. This certainly appears to be the case for the president, as each of these expenses would be incurred as a result of the president's employment. Bonus fact: all federal employees, including the president, are prohibited from keeping gifts from foreign governments and officials that are worth more than $350. However, particularly with lavish ceremonial gifts given by other heads of state to the president, the gifts are typically graciously accepted, then turned over to the National Archives. For domestic gifts, as legislative attorney Jack Maskell notes, the president is generally free to accept unsolicited personal gifts from the American public, from relatives, and gifts that are given on the basis of personal friendship. However, the president must publicly disclose personal financial information, including personal gifts over the minimal amounts, currently $350. So thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please click that like button below and consider sharing it with anyone you think might be interested. And of course, if you're new to Today I Found Out, don't forget to click that subscribe button to get more interesting videos like this. We release a new video almost every single day, so you're sure to find something you find interesting. Thanks for watching.